Hey, I'm Mark McKinley, and today we're going to be talking to you about the use of technology in EMS education and EMS in general. So, technology is getting very advanced, especially over the past 5 years. A lot of innovations have came out, and a lot of people are wondering, what do we do with it with EMS? There's some people who love the idea of it, and some who are very reluctant to the use of AI. Um, I do not personally believe that we are in a job that AI can take over because taking care of patients are people, people throw variables. It's going to be years before a computer can react to some of those variables and personalities and odd situations you encounter taking care of patients in an EMS and basically being home doctors and going into weird situations. Same with education. AI and computers can teach people a lot. Some people can self learn, but sometimes you still need that face to face human interaction and that years of experience doing the job to really help some of these key information or some of the key knowledge components that we're trying to teach them to sink in. Now, some people are very, very reluctant of it, and there's many papers into why. Some of it's fear about people taking their job. Some of it's the John Henry theory. Um, and that was commonly seen with the Lucas when it first came out. So you had John Henry. He would take those big spikes, pound the railroad spikes into the ground, and he had a race with a machine. And it was like man versus machine, which is better. And I think instead of looking at which is better, we should be looking at how can we utilize that technology to make us better, allow us to give a better product, allow us to save more lives, allow us to be better educators. Now, part of it is looking at the next generation. How do they learn? What are their strong suits? What are their weak suits? A lot of their strong suits is they're gamers. So video games on the new generation that's coming in, the 18 to 20-year-olds, they grew up on very good, like high graphic video games. Where me, I still had the Super Nintendo. Some of the boomers, y'all may have been alive as Pong was coming out. So it's just different. So they have started to develop educational video games, but they're not quite there yet. They're just a little bit too fun and kind of lack some of the teaching. One of the games, most people are familiar with Grand Theft Auto. They let you drive the ambulance like Grand Theft Auto, which isn't a thing. But my idea is to figure out how to use video games as teaching simulators or possibly homework. So you could have an educational game where you're going up to a house and it may ask you, what things should I be looking for to ensure the scene is safe? You know, do I see a dog barking? Do I see a weapon? Is there like a weird smell? When you're walking through that doorway, boom, it pops up. What's your general impression of this patient, and how do you decide that? Because that's always a hard concept to teach of, hey, they're over here, I'm walking in, what's my general impression without even talking to them? So it would flag you with questions, and if you're not getting it right, it might stop you and make you redo that part of the level, or if you mess up enough, it might fail you on that video game. And it could go down to how to perform an assessment, what all actions need to take place. You could do it in somewhat real time where it lags. That's one of the things when you're doing scenarios with paramedics. They're like, all right, I started IV, I gave 2 liters of fluid and a bag of dopamine, all in about 35 seconds. Well, no, we're talking about at least a 10-minute process to do all those interventions, if not longer. So it would be a good supplement. I think you still need that interaction with the instructors and the experience of how to run a proper scenario, but supplementing maybe as homework or an exercise where they get to do something they're natural at, which is video games, get to learn from computers, which this upcoming generation is very good at that, and just gives them another form to learn. And then the instructor could also log in and see where they're doing bad during that little game or session of their assessment. And you could use it for medical, you could use it for trauma. Once that software got developed, it could be something that could even simulate the hard stuff to simulate, like your mass casualties. Now, the computer may also be able to put in that little pressure during the scenarios to kind of make it harder for them. But that's one way we could use technology within the classroom. There's another way we could consider using technology within the field. So some places are still reluctant, but there's a lot of literature saying that EMS should be giving blood in the field, especially for trauma and vaginal bleeding, etc. Anytime when blood is coming out of the body, right? So all we've had is for years since I started the career is you could just give them fluid, but that doesn't replace those RBCs that can carry all the oxygen to all the cells into the body and keep it alive, right? And then we learned over trial and error that if you get too excited and you feel like you have to do something and you give somebody way too much fluid, you're going to turn their blood into Kool-Aid, it can't clot, and then you actually are going to be causing them to die. So now different places in the area have done some trial and error and what's the best way to get that blood to the patient. So some organizations, when I worked for, we tried to keep it on every ambulance. And we covered a very wide area. So the issue we were having is it wasn't always getting used, and if you weren't properly monitoring the temperature, then the blood would be going bad. I know Frisco and Dallas, they have responders. They all have different names, but they're basically EMS supervisors, where they carry the blood and they try to drive to that area and they help the crew administer it. That's the same way New Orleans is doing it. Some of these agencies have ran into issues where what do they do if it's backed up traffic or they can't get there in time. So that's where the possibility of, is there some kind of technology we could use to bring this blood to people? So there could be the use of drones. For instance, you can order an energy drink from Walmart and it'll drop an energy drink via a drone to you. So there's potential that you could use a drone and the blood to run it to these people. Now, if you're using a drone, you're going to be in a fixed location. So that means instead of using a cooler, you could use a refrigerator to keep that blood. Well, up north it may be okay to kind of try to keep it in an ambulance, but today here in Texas it was 102 degrees outside. So you have to constantly be monitoring that blood to make sure it doesn't get too warm. So you could have somebody within a building that's able to run this blood to the ambulance via a drone and drop it to them. There are some variables with that. So what would you do if it's a really bad weather or the wind gusts are too high? You'd have to have a backup plan, of course, and that's where sometimes technology fails you, so you may have to pop it in the rig and drive it to your crew. The other thing would be like, well, how do we get a drone operator? These guys are firefighter paramedics, they're all good at their jobs, but do they know how to use a drone? So are you going to send one of your guys to drone school? Teach them how to fly, let them get all their certifications, let them practice? Or do you bring in an outside source that already knows how to operate a drone and they become part of the team, even if they're not necessarily a sworn-in member, they'd still be working for that EMS agency or that fire department or city. That specialty is to run the drones. Other ideas have been dispatchers. Dispatchers always have a little rift between the field crews and the dispatch. So I don't know how crews would feel about that. But there's several options that could be explored of, hey, how do we get this blood product to them faster when there's traffic or it's a rough situation while keeping the quality of the blood? But overall, I think technology and EMS need to come together. If you're not willing to embrace that technology, you're eventually going to become a dinosaur, and it's going to overrun you. But I still think there's that balance where you need that human interaction in EMS and especially education. But we just need to start being open-minded and figure out how to use these tools in the classroom and in the field to better prepare our students to save lives and to better save people's lives. But I appreciate y'all taking the time to listen to me today. Again, I'm Mark McKinley, and I hope y'all have a great day.